Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
I don't know how much longer I will survive my betrayal of my husband 5 years ago. I know there's a bullet coming with my name on it, but when, where, or how I don't know. I need to get this down on paper before it happens, so the whole world will know the cost of cheating I have to pay. Let me start from the beginning. It started the year my boys were on summer break from school, and I sent them to a very nice summer camp as we always did. Ron was 17 and Jerry was 16 at the time. My husband, Robert, was on a mission for the military to some South American country. He was a major and led a Green Beret A team and had been gone for 2 weeks already. I had just finished with 2 of my secret lovers from the local frat house and sent them on their way home. Another one would be here the next day and the day after that. Well, you get the picture. I had a young stud servicing me every weekday except Mondays when 2 brothers came together. It started 3 years ago when I was invited to go to a frat party with one of the football players that had been screwing me for a month. The word got out I had a thing for young men with large tools, and I had boys hitting on me all night. I know I consumed a lot of beer that night and was taken to a bedroom. I took on everyone that wanted a piece and gave it to them happily. By morning, I was one well-screwed woman. I don't know how many loads I took in all 3 holes, but I was leaking like a sieve. My hubby would be gone for another month at the time. I made arrangement with several of the guys to visit me while the boys were in school. That started a series of affairs that had gone on for 3 years already. My kids and husband never found out as I was so careful not to leave any clues. As I said, the 2 brothers had just left me, and I was headed for the shower when the doorbell rang. I answered it wearing a robe and nothing else underneath. There stood 2 captains I had never seen before, but they had the silver wings of a Green Beret on their chests. Mrs. Robert Johnson? Yes, that's me. I am Captain Mitchell, and this is Captain Rogers. It is with deep regret that Major Robert Johnson was killed this morning in a plane crash in South America. We don't have all the details, nor do we know if his body can be recovered at this time. The plane went down in hostile territory, and the entire team was lost. That was the last thing I remembered until I woke up later on the couch with my sister-in-law, Julie, wiping my face with a cold, damp hand towel. The 2 captains had picked me up off the floor and called her from the emergency contact card they had. They left when she got there, and my brother was on his way there from work. She got me up and gave me a glass of water, then took me to the shower. Listen, Robin, I don't want to know anything about what you have been doing, but judging by the amount of sperm running down your legs and the puddle on the floor where you collapsed, I'd say it was no good. I cleaned the puddle up, and now you better wash the rest away before my husband, your brother, gets here and sees it. If you weren't my sister-in-law, I'd call you a witch and a 304 right now and walk away from you. Now you have about 45 minutes before Elle gets here to clean up and get dressed like a decent woman should be. I'll be in the living room after I pour a cup of coffee. Now move, witch. I got my head together and showered and dressed quickly. My husband was killed while I cheating on him, and now my brother's wife knew about it, and quite possibly those 2 captains too. What was I going to tell the boys? Would Julie tell on me? My stomach lurched and I threw up in the bathroom sink. If anyone had seen those contents, there would be no doubt what I had been swallowing all morning. I rinsed it all down the drain and brushed my teeth and rinsed out everything. I looked in the mirror and saw my eyes were red and puffy from all the crying I was doing. Every time I thought about what I had been doing while my husband died, I would cry harder. Julie finally came and could tell the way my shoulders were heaving that I was racked with sobbing. She helped me back to my bed and sat me down while she dabbed my eyes with the tissue from the box on the nightstand. Robin, we'll help you get through this and help the boys too. When it done, you and I will have a sit-down girl-to-girl and heart-to-heart talk, and you will have to answer some very pointed questions. No lying or deceit from you will be accepted. I won't tell anyone what I saw today either. Thank you, Julie. I am feeling so bad right now. Why did this have to happen now? He only had 3 more years to retire and be with me forever after that. Maybe you are being punished by a higher power. Al is here, and he wants to make sure you are okay before he goes to the camp to get the boys. Don't worry about telling them. He'll break it to them gently and be there for them, then bring them home. Julie and I went out to the living room, and Al held me for a few minutes rubbing my back. He said he would be back with the boys in the morning. The camp was 12-hour round-trip drive, so watch for them in about 14 hours. As he was leaving, 2 women showed up and said they were from the base officers' wives club, and they came to see if I needed anything. They told me the military will handle all the funereal contacts and take care of everything for me. The base chaplain would be by tomorrow afternoon to talk to me and the boys. All I could do was nod to them. I was crying so hard I couldn't even talk. They sat with me while Julie changed the sheets and blankets on my bed and putting them in the washing machine. As the news spread like wildfire, friends dropped by to offer their condolences and made sure Julie had their phone numbers in case I needed anything. A colonel from base security stopped by to collect any records Robert may have had, but since he didn't bring anything home, there wasn't anything to collect. He offered his deepest sympathy and left. When everyone had gone for the night, Julie gave me a sleeping pill and put me to bed, and she slept out on the couch. I slept fitfully through the night. Even the pills didn't stop the nightmares. I awoke the next morning feeling like I had been run over by a runaway truck. By the end of the day, I wished I had been. Julie must have heard me stirring around and brought me a mug of coffee to help me wake up. She gave me another pill and said it was a low-grade sedative to help me get through the day. Her doctor prescribed them for me, and she ran and got them earlier this morning. She told me a Richard Martin had called and expressed his sympathies. I gasped as I remembered he was the frat president and was supposed to come today. Julie said he had heard about the death on the news this morning and canceled all my appointments until further notice. He was one of my first lovers 3 years ago and was still one of my weekly liaisons. This was to be his last year anyway, as he had graduated and would be leaving for law school soon. I would have to call him later when I was alone and thank him for everything. Julie made me eat breakfast, then a light lunch as the visitors came and went throughout the day. I came in with my boys. They looked like they had been crying for hours too. They ran and hugged me, and we cried together in a group hug. Al brought their gear in and had them go put it away in their rooms. Once again, the officers' wives' club wives showed up with foodstuff already prepared so my visitors and family could have food and refreshments. One older woman told me she was Jerry Stockman, and I realized she was the commanding general's wife. She handed me a list of names, addresses, and phone numbers and said they were the wives of the team that was with my husband. Julie took the list from me and made floral arrangements with a local florist for delivery to the wives in my name and credit card with a note that I would call on them when I was able to. The rest of the day the boys and I put up a brave front to all our visitors. The chaplain came by and said a mass memorial service was scheduled for Thursday afternoon for all the families. Individual services could be scheduled too whenever we wanted it. Since the bodies couldn't be recovered and it was doubtful they ever would be, only memorials were being planned. Al and Julie were the only family we had left, so a big private memorial service wasn't necessary for us. Each wife would receive the tri-folded flag before the 21-gun salute, and taps was played. The salute was being formed of all Green Berets, and they were all friends of my husband's. All were volunteers too. Finally, the visitors stopped and Julie fed me another sleeping pill and sent me to bed. The nightmares kept coming back all night. Wednesday was almost a repeat of Tuesday. By Thursday, I was a nervous wreck. I was still taking the sedatives and now antidepressants. We went to the memorial service, and it was beautiful. Julie led me around to the other widows so I could tell them how sorry I was with their loss as well and hear mine from them. We all got together for a group hug and crying jag after taps was over, each carrying our flag. We were all Green Berets' wives except the 2 pilots of the aircraft, but we welcomed them into our group hug as if they were. General Stockman came up to the group and told us a heavily armed body recovery team was being allowed in tomorrow morning by helicopters. The country's government approved the humanitarian effort for a search and recover effort. The 25-man team was already in the air on their way. We went home after that. Each widow was having an open house for friends and family that afternoon and evening. Julie prepared for mine on Friday. Al took me to each house so I could pay my respects for the men that served under Robert. I was on the last of my strength when we left the last home, and Al took me home. I thanked my brother for his help, and I cried on his big shoulders while he held me tightly. Julie fed me another sleeping pill, and I slept very well that night. No nightmares to haunt me. Friday morning came and I woke up feeling better than I had since I got the news. Julie gave me the antidepressants and another sedative just before the open house. One by one the other widows came in and paid their respects to me as I had done, and a couple stayed for quite a while, but most left soon afterwards. This was to be the last time I saw most of them as they separated to go to wherever their families were at. Such is the life of a military family. By Friday night I was mentally and physically exhausted, and another sleeping pill knocked me out. Saturday morning came, and after we all had breakfast the boys asked if I would take them to the gun range today. They used to go every Saturday when Robert was home to practice. Robert had taught them well. Al said he would drive us, so we went. They boys went to the still targets first and shot expert scores, then on to the moving targets. I kept hearing them mutter something before every shot, and I leaned in closer to hear what they were saying. Both boys were leaning into the rifles and saying, "Wait for it." Then when everything lined up, they would fire. I was surprised when I saw the targets. Almost every shot was a kill shot to the head. The range master told me these two were the best non-military shooters he had seen in a long time, and even then, they were better than most of the military shooters as well. Robert trained them well. Monday afternoon, General Stockman came to the house and told me the recovery team wasn't able to recover any bodies. The aircraft had literally exploded into a fireball in the air, and the fire consumed everything inside the plane. Whatever was left, the animals and insects finished. The only remains they found were semi-melted dog tags for all 11 men. Once again, I had his heartfelt sympathy. Julie sedated me into a deep sleep once again. The summer came and went. The boys returned to school. Ron is a senior and Jerry was a junior. Their fellow classmates gave them both a hearty welcome, and the school offered their sympathies as well, and life went on. Then the first disaster hit: college football. I was watching it on TV with the boys as the local college was playing a distant college, and there was my first lover on the field. He was running the ball toward the goalpost to score the winning touchdown. He crossed the line, and when he raised his arms in victory, his head exploded on national TV. We three sat there totally stunned as the channel went to a commercial real quick. It was all over the news for days. a sniper on the roof of a school building had fired the shot that killed my former lover. It became the talk of the town for weeks after that. No one had any idea who the shooter was or why he had been chosen as the victim. The police were stumped. The night of the shooting, Richard Martin called me from his new campus. He told me the new frat president called him and reported that Richard's journals had been stolen from the records hall. He told me the journals never mentioned my name in them, but every lover I had was listed with dates and times. The dead player's name was first on the list. I almost passed out when he told me there was a record kept, and I got dizzy when he told me the last part. It was 3 days later when the national news announced the death of Richard Martin as the result of a sniper shooting on his campus. He had been studying in his dorm room when the shot shattered the window and his head next. The shot came from a tree over half-mile away. No clues to the sniper were found. This time the police visited me as my name and phone number were on his Rolodex. They showed me a photograph of a letter he had gotten the day before, and all it said was, "Wait for it." When I came to, they asked what it meant. I told them that was what moving target shooters said as they waited for their target to line up with the crosshairs of their scopes. My husband had taught that to my sons, and they said it when they fired the kill shots at the range. The police LT told me that the same letter had been found at the football players' room. I went down again. Now the police were interested in me and my connection to the victims. I didn't tell them they were both lovers of mine, just that I knew them both from around town, and that seemed to placate them for now. Over the course of the next 2 years, my former lovers all died one by one at the hands of the sniper. The 2 brothers were the last to go. The police came to me every time, and they had all received that same message the day before, "Wait for it." At some point they found out that all the victims had been sleeping with me on a regular basis when my husband was out of town and kids were in school. Somehow the word got out, and the people in town started pulling away from me. Even my boys left home and wouldn't talk to me anymore. Julie came to check on me once in a while, but she didn't stay long either. Both boys joined the Army when they graduated high school and went to snipers training and applied to the Special Forces school. I wasn't invited to basic graduations and was told not to show up there either. I had to remove graffiti off my garage doors as someone painted 304 and witch on it several times. People in town looked at me and just sneered in disgust at me. Men kept hitting on me for a sex date when their wives weren't around. I hadn't taken a lover since the day my husband died and would never again either. I finally had to move a couple hours drive away where I wasn't known by anyone and only the boys. My brother and his wife knew where I lived now. I had attempted suicide twice and was seeing a therapist, taking antidepressants daily, and going to sex addiction group meetings. I was losing weight and looking very old now for a woman that was only 40. I looked 60. I didn't care anymore. I wanted to die. Al and Julie visited with me weekly and tried to snap me out of the funk I was in. Without my boys, I didn't have the will to live anymore. I was responsible for the deaths of 10 young men, and it ate at my very soul. Now on the anniversary of Robert's death, I'm looking at the letter I got in today's mail. Those 3 haunting words, "Wait for it." I am waiting for it, and I am welcoming it when it comes. My will is written and at the lawyer's office. My burial expenses are paid off. I called Al and Julie when I got the letter and told them goodbye and asked them to ask my sons to forgive me please and asked for theirs too. They both gave me theirs and I hung up the phone. I am sitting in front of a big picture window while typing this on my laptop. The curtains are open to the daylight and I am facing the window. I am making the headshot that is coming an easy one. As I sit here looking at the street wondering where the shot would come from, a military police car pulls up in my driveway with its red and blue lights flashing. I watch as 2 officers get out and the first thing I see is the glare off the silver wings on their chests. Somehow, they look familiar to me, and as they came up to the door and walked in without knocking, I see it is my 2 sons. The military police car pulled out and left after the driver put their bags in the entryway. Both boys came to me and hugged and kissed me. I heard 3 shots ring out in the afternoon air, and both boys looked at me, and Ron told me it was over. The sniper was dead. They told me I was forgiven by them, and the Green Beret take care of their own. I don't know who the sniper was, and no one will ever tell me if it was Robert or not. I have my boys back, and that's all that matters now. Wait for it. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.